Professor M Dasan, who is one of the leading exponents of Dalit literature in Kerala and India, and also an expert in subaltern and minor literatures from all over the world in new literary scene, who was the professor and head and dean at the Central University of Kerala in the Department of English and Comparative Studies, and he was also the HOD and professor at Kannur University. So he is with us today, and he will tell you about his life struggles and also his pioneering efforts and works in Dalit literature. Professor Dasan.
Yeah, nice to talk to you, Dr. Ajay. Yeah, regarding the life, it has been the symbol that comes to my mind regarding my childhood days are just floating. My father was a communist, freedom fighter. So those days the communists never had any time to look after their family. We were born in a joint family, a poor Dalit family.
In Calicut.
In Calicut, in Kovo. Just now we are living. So his father had married a second time. So they were there and his brother was there. So we were almost like 6 to 8 members living in a small thatched house. When I was 3.5, my mother was pregnant the second time. So they had to put me in the nearby school. There was no other option. Because I was told that I've been drinking breast milk from my mother even when I was going to school. So they put me in the nearby Kovur Mapla LP school. It's only later, that is when I became 27 years, I realized that I was given a date of birth by the headmaster, 1/1/1951. Actually, my date of birth was 22/7/1952. So I didn't know where, I was not studying in fact, just going to school and coming back. And because of lack of care, almost a kind of neglect. So I just floated from first standard to second standard to third standard. The only instance I remember is that beautiful girl children were being loved, caressed by the teachers. People like us have been neglected and put to last benches, and they are often brutally punished, beaten. When I was beaten, I ran to my house. There also my granddad will beat me again and come back. So somehow or other, 4th standard I passed within quote and unquote. So 5th standard, nearest school is Sega High School. So I joined there. 1962, by the time I joined 5th standard in Sega High School. By that time, because of the Calicut Medical College, the first LDF ministry decided to start a medical college in Calicut. Because my father was a communist leader at that time, he initiated to make a cooperative of the workers, and they started the ground leveling of the medical college. They undertook the work. So for some time he got some job or maybe some money. That is the only period that we had at least 2 or 3 square meals. Around 62, that our land was taken by the government. There was not even remuneration because, we didn't have any record to show that it is our land. My grandfather's father was asked, do you have the receipt that you paid the tax? No. There was a provision that you can pay all the taxes so that you can claim your own and get a better compensation. Unfortunately, they didn't have that much money. So he said, okay. So a paltry amount was given. So all the joint family, dispersed, and my father moved, and grandfather moved, father's brother, and all the moved. So the joint family ended there. So just half a kilometers beyond the now medical college campus, with the money that he got as a worker or as a manager or as a secretary of the cooperative, he managed to pull some money and he bought some 28 cents of lands. That's where we moved in 1962. So 5th standard to 10th standard, I studied in Xavier School. Actually, I didn't have books. I didn't have an extra pair of trousers or shirts. Naturally, little after a chinta pen, 2-3 years when he was having that money, I was okay. But then again, he came back to full-time politics. Again, reverse trend. Again, poverty, etc., etc., etc. So I was the worst student in the class throughout high school. Good at sports, good at games, good at singing, good at everything. But in studies, I was poor because nobody to care, nobody to tell. Mother was illiterate. Father couldn't finish even lower primary school studies. So naturally, you can imagine. So I failed in 7th standard, I failed in 9th standard, I failed in 10th standard. No wonder those who know my background, it's quite natural. I didn't have any happy moments to recollect, except some good advices by some teachers who know my background, who know my father. Because he's a social worker, he was respected. So that also I got it. But there was also some sad moments, 1 or 2 I'll tell you. There was a drawing teacher. I was very bad at drawing even then and now. So you know that all the teachers think that students who don't know their subject are good for nothing. So this drawing teacher, because I couldn't draw very well, cursed me publicly in the classroom. Told me that you won't pass through SSLC even if you write 10 times. He called me bad names like a rodent, Perichai. Had it been another student, probably that would have been a reason for him to drop out. But I had within me, I am good at so many other things. Maybe I am bad at drawing. But somehow or other, I failed SSLC. That was a big shock to my dad. Because though he didn't take care of my studies, etc., etc., he never thought that I would fail. So he took me to a tutorial college in Calicut city, and sometime I made it. That was an all-time pass. Now all subjects we have to pass in 70, 60, 69. So I passed. And then begins, that's a turning point in my life. Because when SSLC second time I passed with the minimum marks, there was no possibility of getting an admission in college. Next is St. Joseph College Library. But father was a municipal council, corporation councillor at that time, elected councillor. So he used his political power, maybe the mayor's recommendation. So I got an admission. I still remember the incident. It was in 69, 70. While I was walking hand in hand with my father to the library college, he was asked me, this is the first and last time that I would recommend for you. That shocked me. I said, I will never ask him to. And it so happened. And never after that, he didn't have to inquire about my studies. I studied and passed and mastered on my own. So at pre-degree at that time, all of us were in Malayalam medium. So naturally, pre-degree at that time was only in English medium. Luckily for me, or people like me, that year in Kerala, 4 colleges were selected to introduce bridge course. In collaboration with the British Council, they started a course, bridge intensive course, in order to bridge the gap between mediums. So 1 month, only English language, its grammar, its pronunciation, its accent, etc., etc., will be taught with audio first time, audio and no video, but audios. And Professor C.S. Apart, Professor C.P. Great teachers were given the task of preparing us for English language. And when I listened to Professor C.S. Shepherd for the first time, somehow or other, I thought someday I also want to speak English like him. So that was the turning point in my life. But for that course, I would never have become an English MA or even English teacher. And I did very hard work also. Because of my very bad academic background, I decided that I'm going to be a best student in the class, even in the college. So I did very hard work. The only income was that lump sum grant. Father used to give some money sometimes, at least for hair cutting. I would keep it away. In only 2 months only I will cut the hair. That balance I would use for some study purposes. So I was forced to do all kinds of menial work even when I was a student. We go for carrying granite stones, picking up teak wood leaves and sell it to the fisherman so that we'll get some amount. All kinds of odd jobs, even digging, all kinds of pulling rickshaws. So somehow or other I managed. That was the year in which LDF ministry, Imbichi Baba, was the transport minister. Because LDF was ruling, 70, no? There was a promise, there was an invitation for me to join the KSRTC as a conductor. Because it was told that even in cigarette packets people used to write a comment and it was expensive. So my father asked me, there is a possibility that he could get a job, conductor, if you want. I don't know why. Somehow or other, inspired by the BIDS course and things like that, I said, sorry, I would like to continue my studies. Though I was afraid that I wouldn't be able to continue my studies with all the minimum requirements. Somehow or other, I denied that opportunity and continued my studies. Did very hard work and became among the top rankers. I was the 4th or 3rd. The 3rd group, at that time there was no first classes at all, but I got some 53% or so. But then for degree studies, naturally I would have joined there. But that year there was a management strike. Christian management was striking. Because I had good marks, I had to go to Malabar Christian College, where I took economics and history as a double main. That was a very good experience for me. Even in 1970-72 period, I was a little bit active in SFI, not much. School also, there was KSF. I was a little bit member because of the family history, always communist family, so it's natural. But when degree, I had to travel every day to college, so I had to have some money, lunch, tea, etc., etc. So we started up making some income by giving tuitions. So I had a friend, T.P. Bashir, who is also belonged to Gogo. So we started small kinds of tuition, like small boys and seniors, illiterate seniors, especially people who ride bullock carts and things like that. We started teaching them arithmetics, in Malayalam alphabets. So we used to get some money. We didn't have any money to invest, so we just hired a veranda of a barber friend of mine. So we started. Within 2-3 years, it became a small tuition center. We invested some 30 rupees first, and then 300, and then become 3,000. So along with my degree studies, but the parallel institution that we started also grew. So that was my mainstay. Up to 9:30, I would teach there. After 4 o'clock also, I would teach there. That's my mainstay. And I used to sleep over there also. Because in my house there was no electricity. There was not even only 1 or 2 small rooms. So by the time I became there, my brother was there, 2 brothers, 2 sisters. So degree, Malabar Christian College was, as you know, it was called an elite institution at that time. Only upper caste boys and upper class boys and girls came. So SFI were looked down upon. We were only some 30-40 boys. But by the time I became a member of the Communist Party as well. So I was the secretary of the SFI in Malabar Christian College. So big political activities, almost all these strikes called on have to be led by me. But that was the story. Because of that, I couldn't study properly. But somehow or other, I managed. But that was a very good beginning for my studies. Because I got a good marks, Professor M.P. Sridharan, Professor Surathan, good teachers, good classes. So I was selected as a University Union Councillor. So after degree, I had no other option, but I applied for MA History, MA Economics. But that was in far places, so I couldn't go because my mainstay was parallel college. Without the income that meager income that I get from college, I couldn't survive as a student. So I applied in Deveri College because they have MA. They didn't have MA Economics or History at that time. They were only English. Luckily, I had part 2 English, I had marks, so I got admission there. That again is another problem because that was the first time that St. Joseph's College really had co-ed. 15 girls and we 3 boys. Again, the kind of academic scenario that was so perplexing for a person who has gone through this kind of minimal educational background. So I had to struggle. Again, because it was 1975, it was emergency. I was the party unit secretary in Kovu. So every day I had to go to the police station, medical college police station, and put the signature there and then to the college. The principal know that. So principal advisory, Mane, he used to call me Mane. Mane, you can tell me that you are not a communist. I told him, Father, who will believe? I am a communist. But I am not a terrorist. I don't do anything harm anti-national. So he was very sympathetic to me. So because I was elected as a chairman, I couldn't write for the first year examination. And the principal knew that. And the principal called me. He was a very loving Father Bennett Kurian. He called me, son, our chairmans never used to get a pass for the first instance. So you should promise me that you would write the exam and get a pass in the first appearance itself. I promise you. But for that, like all other former chairmans, I would not have written and completed the examination in the first instance. Because of his love and care, somehow or other, after completing all the programs, even college day celebrations, editing magazines, the every college chairman used to be chairman of chairmans. And that was the status that St. Joseph's College had in those days. So I had only a few days, some 28 days. I had to write all the papers, 12 papers. So I divided maybe 2-3 days for one paper. So I worked 14 hours a day. My body was very frail, weak. Even now it is weak because of the malnutrition that I had throughout my period. So I couldn't sleep. My brain was overworked. So that was a period I thought I would not be able to write it. Somehow or other, I wrote. The same happened in degree also. I had the same problem. Wrote it and luckily I got minimum 50% marks. Again I thought, what should I do? I have to be a student because I will get the Lamson grant. Then I can continue the teaching in the parallel college. By the time the parallel college has grown, we had, because I was a postgraduate student, we the unemployed postgraduates are running parallel college, something like that. So a lot of people came up to MSc classes, to nurseries to MSc classes. 500 to 600 classes. We rented some 6-7 rooms, main building. It's almost like a parallel course within colleges. All gave help to many unemployed postgraduates. So after PG, I thought I applied for LLB, Calicut Medical Law College, and BA. I got admission for both. But if I join BA, I cannot teach here in the parallel college because that's a hectic work. So I preferred LLB and joined LLB. And there also I met the principal and said, sir, I am a postgraduate. So we have a parallel college, we used to go and teach to him, Okay, you can go. You don't have to be regular in class. I will mark your attendance. So I completed 1 year, but I attended only some 13 classes. When I was first year MA, I wrote the first published service commission examination, PSC, for KSCB, cashier post. By the time I almost finished first year LLB, I got advice card for PSC. So I compared, people said, KSCB, you have bonus at that time, you have extra incentive. So I joined that. It was posted in Kannur, Papaniseri, MBR Statagam. So because my father was a CITU state leader at that time, with his introductory letter, they took care of everything, including housing, food, everything. So 3 years I was there. That was in 78 to 81. I was in Papanaseri, Cheruvun. It was at that time, my father, because he was a trade unionist, he often used to have consultations with collectors and labor officers. So he might have had his imagination that how would it be my son also writes the civil service examination, same will become officer like that. So he said he said, why don't you write for civil service? Oh, that's the moment I thought, why don't I write it? But then there is a hitch. Throughout this period, that is up to 1982, though I was born as a Dalit, I was considered only OEC or OBC. So all the postings I got is a general service. Because there was a hitch in the name. Our community is Vannan or Manna. But unfortunately, there was a Peru added to that. So Peru Vannan was not in the list. So all our family was denied the right to reservation. But when I wanted to write for civil service, I checked my age. Then I realized my age was fabricated. Because I am senior to my uncle, as per my record shows. So I quarrel with my mom and dad. You don't know the date of birth of your son, etc. But luckily, my mother's mother, she calculated from her memory. She said, "No, you should be 1.5 less than what you are now." That was a long research. I just researched on all the papers. My father's document. Father's document had caste name in those days. His date of birth. My father was attended only Chavair UP school up to 3rd standard. That is in 30s or 40s. So I ransacked all the materials. Luckily, I got some old papers in which his date of birth is marked. So by the time I had all the brothers and sisters, all their date of births, everything has to be submitted to the education department. There was tens of hundreds and thousands of applications for correction of date of birth. By the time I was preparing for civil service also. So I was prepared that I should somehow, because I was not 28. 28 year was the date year limit for writing civil service in 80s. So luckily they reminded me, they refused so many papers, so I went personally with all the duplicates. If they refuse anything, I will give another one. Somehow or other I got it. Along with that, I also applied to Crit Arts. That I am really Manna. But so happened that because of the Peru title, we were denied. They conducted anthropological research, field study. My father's father has a Vannan. And how can I be a Peru Vannan? Professor Mathur was the director at that time. So he gave the certificate that his family, his father, his mother, all Vannans, and how can he be others? So this is just a honorific title. They do the same profession, there's a work, family history, genealogy, etc., etc. So though I was born as a Dalit, the right to reservation I got only in 83, 84.
At what age?
85 means 52 to 32 years. 30 years. Before that also I have wrote PSC for lectureship, English lecture, as an OBC candidate, because I was not reserved. So I was interviewed, but then they didn't select me. So 4 years was lost. Next 4 years, that 8th year, after my PG, 77 into 80, 85. 85, UDF ministry. They filled the backlog of SC vacancies in college. I applied. I was selected. And I was appointed in Madapalli College. That is the first appointment as a reserved candidate in Madapalli College. Because I have been teaching all kinds of difficult English texts at every levels, degree levels, PG levels, it was not a problem for me to teach Government Madapalli College, even the first day I joined. And Dr. Srijan, later on, we are all both registered as a PhD candidate. He is Dr. Prevendran. Both of us competed almost in the same time. So he was there. Madapalli College gave me a real boost. It was the kind of love, respect and recognition I received from my colleagues. That's wonderful. And the students also were brilliant. So we had 1 or 2 years there, 85 to 87. Then it's a bad story is also there. You know, as a teacher of English, in those days in colleges, people used to teach Shakespeare with paraphrase text, even Malayalam paraphrase text. From my experience and I claim my expertise of teaching original Shakespeare, which I developed through teaching parallel college below level students, and judging the caliber of the then batch of Maudapalli, I requested them, why can't we deal with original English test without paraphrase? They are all said, yes sir, we'll do. At that time I was doing research. I had a minor research project. So I went to SRC. By the time I inquired Hyderabad bookshops, because in Kerala there was not available, 20 copies of original Shakespeare was not available, either Dayton or Swan is not available. So I made arrangement and I came back. When I came back, students are not talking to me. They are evading me. So I wondered for a couple of days. Then reluctantly, one or two students said, sir, don't feel otherwise with me. We were questioned by the cooperative store manager. There was a CPM guy in Madapalli College in that way, the stronghold of CPM. So he had stored paraphrase text enough, hoping that the students will buy. So they didn't buy. So he said, Professor Dasan might get some commission from them. So he in fact chastised them, like abused them. So that's why they were reluctant. I got wild and I went to the principal. I told the principal, there was a lady, Rema Bai or somebody. Said there is something called academic freedom. If a teacher and students unanimously decides to follow a method of teaching, I believe I have every right to do it. Unless the students have a complaint. And I don't want to obey the pew. She was also really supportive, and you know, in government colleges, we don't have chalks or dusters. She gave me a new duster and a new pack of chalks. You are free, sir, you do whatever you want. That was a very good experience for me. And I predicted among the students, at least half a dozen will go to PG in one of the universities. It so happened that within a year, I got an appointment in Calicut University Department as an English lecturer. There is an agenda to it. Because I was in government college, I had applied to Calicut University Department. Where before going to the research ASRC, I had asked the section in Calicut University, now I am going for research. Is there a possibility that my interview will be fixed? No, sir, you go. But when I reached there, after a week or so, I had made all the arrangements, investing money, because money has to be paid in advance. I didn't give number to my wife. Even the telephone number of SRC is changed that time. I didn't know all these things. I got a frantic telegram call from my house, from my colleagues. With the help of my colleagues, my wife somehow managed to contact me. Yeah, you have an interview tomorrow. Hyderabad, evening 4 o'clock, SRC library, I am sitting, I am getting it. Luckily, I got a bus. There was a reservation for MLAs in Hyderabad. So one such reservation seat I got, and I came to Bangalore. And from Bangalore, directly I went to the interview room of Calicut University. Though it was a reserved post, I saw many OBC Muslim candidates waiting to be interviewed, including our beloved Izzy Harris. Which later I understood that there was a regular scheme of evading SC candidates in those times, hoping that if the performance of SC candidates was below the level, they would immediately say, we can appoint either candidates. That is the practice. And they were sure of it. That may be one of the reasons why my interview letter was sent by telegram. There was another political tint to it. Because I didn't participate in the UGC strike called by Government Teachers Organization when I was at Madapalli. I didn't join the union also. So they had a grudge in that. So maybe because they didn't want an anti-left person to be appointed in Calicut University. By that time, it was UDF who was the syndicate also. That only late only I realized that because of that. But I didn't join the other party. Congress also HST was there, GCT was there, but I didn't join. I only said, in Kerala, we were struggling to introduce UGC scheme, but in other parts of the country, they were trying to solve the problems in the implemented UGC. So I asked them the question, if they withdraw, what will happen to us? That they can answer. So that's why I didn't join. Because of that, I became a renegade among their eyes. That is the reason why they didn't want me to be appointed in Calicut University as a lecturer. So that is the only reason why normally no interview letters are sent by telegram. And that too very recently, within a day, they were 100% sure that I would never be able to come back. So that is one of the instances, very unfortunate instances I had grievance. Another story is that after the interview, one of the interviewers and the syndicate member came out after some time and told me, "Oh, congratulations, you are the best candidate we ever interviewed from this category." I said that, sorry, because of your underestimation of people from this category might be. Anyway, thank you. So I was, Calicut University had a center in Thalassery, you know that, Palliard Center. Palliard Center was no permanent faculty. CP Sivadaswas are there. All others we used to go, RV or NR, we used to go once in a while. So they were really need a permanent staff. So I didn't know that. Dr. C.P. Sivadasan came along with me to get the appointment order. I thought it is because of his love towards me. His interest was to get a permanent. My appointment should be to Thalassery, not to this department. I didn't know that. So anyway, I got it, appointment. I joined there. Except him and me, there was nobody else. So I used to teach for 5 hours every day. And there was no... Calicut at that time is, very remote area, but people were very nice. So somehow or other, there I started learning again, because in the university department, lecturers' profile at that time was very high. Professor C.P. Dasan, Professor R. Viswanathan, Dr. N. Ramendran Nair, Dr. T.K. Ramchandran, who was my senior when I was doing pre-degree. We were friends, you know that. So it was my Herculean task. Because all the time I have heard many colleagues saying, "Oh, these people are reserved candidates. They are appointed, they are good for nothing." So my mission was to disprove the myth that Dalit people were good for nothing. So I did very hard work. To be very frank, working maybe 10 hours, 12 hours of work, even after teaching, before teaching and after teaching, plus research. Again another kick at my career by the beloved Professor C.P. Sivadasan. I went to Hyderabad for research. Every year I used to go. When NR was in charge. So I gave a study leave application. But again, he sent a telegram to me when I was in ASRC. Your action in submitting leave application to the professor in charge was irregular. So you are immediately come and report, otherwise action will be taken against you. Poor newly appointed junior lecturer will be worried. Immediately I rushed back and met Professor Sivadasan. He said, "Okay, immediately you go to class." So after all, coming from Hyderabad, immediately go to class. Evening I met him. Then he said, "Okay, now I have reported it to the Vice Chancellor. Now I can't do anything. Go and meet the Vice Chancellor." I was very shocked, in fact, very shocked. So I shared with my colleagues Senar and T.K. Ramendran. They also said it is injustice. You had only submitted your proper application to the professor who is in charge. What else can you do? So they said, if this is not withdrawn, we are also no long leave. So the Vice Chancellor was Professor Ravindranath at that time. So I met the Vice Chancellor and told him He was very furious. So he said, why have you done that, etc., etc. After some time, he smiled and asked me, what is the problem with CPS? Because I said to him, as a junior faculty, I was interested in research. I was really trying hard to put in research. But this has a very disastrous effect on me. I don't want to do any research. But then he smiled and asked me, what is the problem with CPS? I told him, sir, there are some professional jealousy. He is a literature man. He goes on socio-cultural activities almost. He never found time to engage classes. So I used to engage classes 4 or 5 hours every day. And if you have any problems in understanding my competence in teaching, you give the same text to me and Prof Dasan, he engaged me. If I am unfit, you can kick me out. Then he laughed and said, I'll call Sivadas just now. So from his desk, he called Sivadas. I'm coming there tomorrow, you will be there. Then he also contacted NR and if I'm coming there, will you cancel your leave and come? They said, yeah, if you said, you'll come. So we all went to Calicut the next day and Vice Chancellor asked, see, Dasan has only submitted his leave application and the person who passes it is me. You only forward it. And you are saying that his action is irregular. It's not correct. So C.P. Dasan wanted to apologize in front of me. That was a very bad situation. I said, no, sir, it's okay. And that was another kick to me. All this probably made me tough. Made me put in more efforts to prove my competence and research abilities. To reach on par with the other faculty. Non-research faculty, general faculty. So I worked there up to 1994-5, long years, 1888. And every people who are working in Calicut campus has the right to come back to the main campus. So I had also applied for a transfer. Dr. M Narayan joined with me there when I was in charge of the department. He has also applied for a transfer. But his transfer was given early. Even so, we were in the same union. Which means in union also there is caste. But I got furious. I told the juniors, I also told you that I didn't want to be there. But he had joined after me. He was given, he was not given. So after 1 year, I also got it. So then there was NSS activities, blah, 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 blah. But I built myself, my academic background, research background, read publications during these years. In 1995-96, I got transferred to main campus. There also I was in charge of NSS, here also I was in charge of NSS. Which means all the vacations are also off. 1999, by the time, we become senior lecturers and I become reader. So by 98, I become a reader in the Calicut University Department of English. By 1999, Kannur University bifurcated. They notified professor's post, open post. Naturally, I applied. Because 20 minutes is enough for me to reach here. But as a person who has been, aspiring for, with the intention to prove that we are in no way worse than others, with our academic credentials, I thought I would apply. And I applied. Again, there was some 12, 14 candidates. I was interviewed. And I was selected. Professor Rajan was Vice Chancellor at that time. He rang me personally, congratulated me, asked me if you can join, please. We don't have a professor now. Earlier the better. So I promised him within a week I joined. So though the same place but a different university. 2000 I joined. Naturally, because the first professor, I became the professor and dean. And 2000 to 2002, I and only ad hoc lectures, retired teachers. 2003, my colleagues, Dr. Sharif, Dr. Saji, Matthew, Dr. Hari, Dr. Josh joined. So we were all a good team. When I joined Calicut University, Malayalam, it was IEFL, Institute of English and Foreign Languages. But we had a discussion about the future of the English department. By the time I had some exposure to European universities, I was also the Center for Canadian Studies introduced. So I had fellowships from Canada, which I used to visit UK as well as US. So 2-3 months academic collaborations, which again emboldened me, made me a little more to explore new areas, what's happening in other universities. So we gave a call to change the nomenclature of the department. Hindu gave a strong report during that time. It is not only a change in the nomenclature, but the whole focus of the English studies in this country is going to be radically changed in a small rural university like this. That is how, because I remember even when I was studying MA, we didn't have Indian literature even, only American and British and French, etc., etc. So, because I did my PhD on African American theatre, always I was thinking about why in academic discourses in most of the mainstream universities, subaltern voices or marginalized voices and texts are not described, not prescribed, not taught, not researched. And luckily my colleagues also shared this view. So we radically, even now you look at the syllabus that we have in 2003. We require the Chancellor's assent for changing the name of the, so we applied for that. Professor Rajan lovingly told me, Dasan, why should we go by that? I said, sir, this is how. Why should I be the head of the department of a new university? So we thought, unanimously we decided. So he said, okay, go ahead. So we got Chancellor's assent. So we changed the nomenclature to Department of Studies in English, which means anything written in English can be studied. That's how we could introduce culture studies, women's studies, environmental studies, film studies, Dalit studies, comparative studies, what not. That gave us an opportunity to broaden our own understanding of cultures and literatures, and the students also were reacting positively. So that was a small contribution probably I could do as an academic. By the time I put in some 20 years of service as a professor, so I was member of the NAC team, I was in UPSC selection committee, I was in UGC expert committee. There also, while revising the syllabus, I tried to include, even in UGC net prepares questions, I used to include Aboriginal, Canadian, African American, Dalit text questions on that, much to the fury of the senior Brahminical scholars. So that is how 2000 I joined, but within a few months, Calicut University advertised a post for registrar. Earlier that they had advertised for controller. I was an applicant. I was not selected, though I was most qualified candidate. Because I was also in the left union, I was also a party background, because I was a member of the party. So some of the party members asked why the Professor Dasan, though he was most qualified candidate, he was not given the post of controller. Maybe because of that, I don't know. When the registrar's post came, they appointed me. The biggest betrayal, that is registrar's appointment. You know what? Registrar is a single post. So there is already a Supreme Court verdict that single post cannot be reserved. The university people, the syndicate, the left LDF members, everyone knows it. But after joining, they didn't tell me about anything. So I was selected, I was joined. The other parties, UDF, went to court challenging my appointment because Supreme Court verdict is there. So I asked the syndicate members, you only said that there is a verdict, no? But they said, no, that we can overcome, blah, 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 they said. But because I was the registrar, I saw the file. And in the file, the university has asked for advice of the standing council whether this post of registrar could be notified as reserved. And he has already said, no, it cannot be advertised as reserved candidate. Now the question is, why did they do, even after knowing that it's against the law, against the verdict? That is because later on I realized that's because they not, even in Kerala University also it happened. None of these Savarna lobbies wanted a Dalit registrar to occupy the term for at least 5 years or till his retirement. Kerala University also it happened. So somehow or other, the left forces there saw to it that they were just given appointment, but it was squashed. But the employees union there didn't want to leave me because they know the registrar at their hand will do activities good for them. But Rajan sir was calling me, come on, because I applied for lean only. So there also the UDF syndicate was struggling. They were saying, no, if he is not coming, he will be terminated. So I was in a fix. So finally, I had my own advocate. I went to the chancellor, explained my position. There was also another charge against me. I was not an SC candidate. And the chancellor, I produced all the documents. He was convinced. He said, you should sue against them. I said, sir, I am not doing that. So 2 levels. So anyway, last 1 year, almost 11 months, I worked as a registrar with the full potentials. Though I can come here within 20 minutes, I used to stay in guest house after paying rent and food because I want to see what's happening throughout. And later on, after relinquishing, I asked them, how did I do it? Yeah, you did better than what you expected. Congratulations. So that's all. And no corruption, no bribery. But there was also, casteist trends among the left syndicate so many times. Because one instance only I'll tell you. When I looked at the CAS promotions of Calicut University at that time, I saw 2 SC candidates. Only their 2 applications for CAS was detained. Professor Gokul Das and Professor Radha from philosophy. So I called the joint registrar and asked him, why is it? He has no answer. I said, no. When I, as a SC candidate, is sitting as registrar, I couldn't tolerate. Why? Without any reason, these 2. So that's I realized that there was very strong casteist feelings in almost all the universities. So I got it. Within a week, I got the CAs and made them professors. And there were so many other instances which I am not saying because they didn't want me to. When first time I put Ambedkar's photo in the registrar's room, much to the fury of all the left forces. I said, as long as I am sitting here, that will be there. And I remember Lakshadweep administrator came to my room once and he was very impressed when he saw the photo. He said, I've been coming to university for the last 2 decades. It's the first time I'm seeing it. So, and the students, even when I was registered, I was taking classes in the evening, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, because I'm staying in the guest house. My students forced me to interact with them, so I used to do that. So almost like 24 hours work. I got my back pain just because of that only, Up to 8 o'clock, we'll sit in the room and then I carry the files to the room. Calicut University at that time had more than 200 colleges. It was hectic work. But again, the challenge for me was, most often as you might have heard, academics are bad administrators. This is a notion. I just want to disprove that. Because I had been trained as a clerk and a senior clerk in the electricity board. I know treasury code, financial code, salaries rules, everything I know. So I couldn't be, now normally professors when become registrars, the clerks make them do whatever they want to do because they didn't know what it is. So I took it as a challenge and they couldn't do anything. So I did whatever I could without any prejudice to anybody, on the students also. There was caravos and things like that, which is normal. Another incident was, so after 11 months, I decided that I am going to go back to. But then the employees union leader was angry. They said, no, we are approaching Supreme Court. They wanted to elongate it, the case only. They know that the verdict will be against me because no reservation is possible in single point. So ultimately they said, we have paid 25,000 rupees as advance to Supreme Court advocate. Immediately I took my checkbook and gave 25,000 rupees to the leader, Mr. Stalin. He was very loving, but he is a spokesman of the organization. That evening, I moved to Kannur University and joined there. But that time, Professor Asnain has taken charge of the Vice Chancellor. And NAC team was visiting also. I was preparing all the things as registrar. So he requested me, you have been doing all these things wonderfully well. So if you leave just now, but 2-3 more days can you be here? So I said I had to join. Then I asked him to talk to my Vice Chancellor. So he talked to Vice Chancellor and they even said it's in their own car. So I went in their own car, joined there and took 3 days leave and came back again to fulfill. Because people who knows me said you didn't do that. You have to do that because you have already been penalized by it. You have to go on case against you. So why do that? I said no, it's the university that matters. It's not me. So if the university's growth, this is a critical point, NAC visit. So if my service is needed for 3 more days, I am here. So I came and finished that and went back to the university. So that's how in 2001 again I went back, and within 2 years we radically reorganized the department's academic procedure. That's how 2000 up to 2006. Then by the time I got another visit to Australian Aboriginal. By the time I had some information, some collections of books on American natives, Canadian natives, Australian Aboriginals. I had some direct contacts also. This empowered me to edit a book on their cultures and literatures. I was given another fellowship by Australian University also. So all these were empowering me to introduce marginalized cultures and literatures. So 2006 I got a postdoctoral fellowship. I was free to be away from the department. If I want, I can go and teach. But a salary will be reimbursed by the UGC. So 2006 to 9, I worked on my postdoctoral work on Theyyam. And then I, again for 4 more years, in 2013, I retired from the university. 2013, Central University came to Kerala. They applied for the first post of professor, again, open post. I applied, and M.B. Naran was also an applicant. And Professor Jancy James was the Vice Chancellor. She invited both of us for the interview. Both of us did wonderfully well. But the selection committee gave us the mark 48 and 49. This is below 50. Again, the old practice, below the level. He went to court and he asked right information, he asked for details, and the marks were given without anybody's signature. So it was all fabricated. I didn't go to court. Instead, I wrote a letter to the President of India. I wrote a letter saying that I believe that a central university was given to Kerala to further the educational process in the state, and a professor's post was created to provide the senior professor service to the communities. By not doing that, any one of us could have been appointed. Natural justice is that the best candidate among the two could have been appointed. Both of us are friends. I didn't have any problem. He is appointed. He didn't have any problems. I was appointed. By not appointing either of us, I believe that the Vice Chancellor has forfeited her duty to provide the service. I am bringing to a notice. I am already a professor and a dean. I am completely satisfied. I finished this much of service. I also belong to this community, but I don't want any credit. I have already become an open candidate professor. And this is also like that. I feel that I have been done an injustice, so I thought it's bring to my notice. Forgot that. 2015 they again re-notified. By the time Narayanan didn't apply, maybe, I told you, his AP score was revised at that time. Though he is a good scholar, though we are friends, he didn't apply. So 15 I was again appointed. I was appointed. So 2017 up to 60 years, 65 years I served there. While there also we did, radically revising the syllabus of comparative studies, etc. He started 3 centers: Center for Screen Studies or Film Studies, Center for Theory, Center for Translation, which is now working wonderfully well. But when I was about to retire, the Vice Chancellor, Professor Gopinath, embraced me and said, Dasan, we received the communication, the letter you sent to the President was redirected to us, and we felt that injustice had been done to you. You are not appointed because of that, you are otherwise qualified, but I just want to tell you that. So that is the moment I know that my small intervention had sent waves that an injustice has been done. So 2017, I retired, and 2017 again I got another fellowship to Canadian Studies. And before that, because of the university, I had the opportunity to visit at least some 10-12 countries for South Africa, Cuba, China, etc., for international exposure. Did a little bit expertise on Aboriginal studies, Canadian studies, Dalit studies. Published 10 books, now 11 books, some 50 odd articles. Tried to deliver lectures in most of the universities in the world, in India, and most of the selection committees in the universities. I'm a happy man. I believe that what I did, if you ask me the first question, what did you do as an academic in the university, is to bring in interdisciplinarity in English studies, to bring in marginal discourse in studies. And as a teacher, I never say that I have been teaching. I am only facilitating discussion, debate. There was 1 or 2 moments when I realized I really loved when as you know, in some of the teachings we forget ourselves and get into good mood. There was 1 or 2 instances like that where people used to, students listening to us used to clap and recognize and appreciate us. And even now students keep in touch with us, the kind of long memories. So I think I was very lucky. But there is the other side of it. Because of my continuous academic commitment to justify my existence in the higher education, I couldn't look after my family. So I was a poor husband, I was a poor father. I always regret that. But I have told my wife that I have only 2 options. I could be a bad academician and a good husband, and otherwise I prefer to the last. Because given the situation that we have brought about, with the financial and social condition, we couldn't match both. There are many who could love and take care of their family and keep in touch with the academic, but I am sorry that I couldn't do that. The only regret for me is that as a family man I am a failure, though academically I might not be a failure. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, sir. And as far as your publications are concerned, you are the first editor of the Oxford India Anthology of Malayalam Dalit writing. And also you have published widely on Aboriginal literature and First Nations and other forms of unrepresented and minor literary discourses. So what is the significance of Dalit studies and Dalit literatures in the present, in the context of growing hegemony in India?
Yeah, we have anticipated this, I would say, because especially in English department, even in all literature departments, even in Malayalam or Tamil or Hindi, always been the mainstream or ideas. For example, one of the reasons, as I earlier told you, for the Vice Chancellor rejecting me as a candidate could be because she read one of my articles during the interview time, in which I have written, teaching tribal texts in the classroom is one of my published articles, in which I have said, one of the reasons for why Dalit or tribal literature is not taught in English departments is the lack of such faculty from the marginalized communities. So she seems to be not very happy about that. So that is indirectly suggesting me, a person who is writing like this, don't want to be in no department. Coming back to your question. So as I told you, even when I was an MA student in literature, I was looking for the other voices. We were American literature as an optional, but no African American literature was there. That may be the reason why maybe my background, my subjectivity, my experiences prompted me to look for the other, the voices of others in all literatures. That's why I did my research and PhD in African American, though I didn't know anything about it. Even in Canada, I was introduced to Canadian studies. I became the director of Center for Canadian Studies. I know that Canada was a multicultural society, but in the most of the syllabus in Canadian studies, there was only white writers. So I explored and got a fellowship by Canada to introduce the other voices in the Canadian syllabus. So I revised the Canadian syllabus in almost all Indian universities. So is with the Aboriginal. Australia is the main country, there was all white, good writers. So I made use of the opportunity to go to Australia and to stay with the Aboriginals in their own natural habitats in the forest. That was one of my wonderful experiences. So the direct experience of living with them, talking with writers, meeting many of the writers, reading their texts and teaching their texts emboldened me. And I found that it is more important in the present context where the democratic fabric of education is at stake. I mean, when you say democracy and education, unless you provide equal opportunities for the students to come in and take the courses and continue the course and complete the courses, you cannot ensure democracy in education. And not only that, even now the recent NEP claims that they are radically revising. It has a disastrous effect on the marginalized communities. Because you say it's a cafeteria, you have an entrance, you have an exit. And you have 1 year after, you have a diploma, you have a major diploma and your degree and a research degree. But who is going to assure an employment with a person who has a diploma? With a 1 year course or with a 2 year course or a 3 year course? So it's only, I would say, it's only like extending the year of retirement of the faculty. Because it's a calamity. You are not, the country is not possible to give employment to graduates even after 3 years. So they just elongate it for 1 more year. And again the courses, all traditional courses. Though we speak that we are democratic and modern, we have not been modern. Even the mindset, I don't know how you as a teacher has experienced this. Whatever I teach, one of the moments I enjoy teaching is Brecht's The Life of Galileo in Government College, Malabar. I will never remember that. By teaching Life of Galileo, there were all students from science background, mathematics, science, physics, chemistry. I tried earnestly to make them think scientifically, rationally. And there was confrontations in the classrooms. That happened when I was teaching in Annihilation of Caste, Philosophy of Humanism also. We openly allow students to critique us, to disagree with my points. That created a kind of debate, a democratic debate in the classroom, which unfortunately couldn't happen in the present scenario. We were lucky that we have absolute freedom. I would say a jealous position, 100% academic freedom to discuss sexuality, caste, religion, democracy in the classroom. But I wonder that we have lost that freedom nowadays. So in the kind of hegemonic discourses, more and more percolating and even appropriating the other voices. Even academics also. I would clarify one point. It's not enough that you include a Dalit or a tribal text in the classroom. I remember one of my professors from Tamil Nadu who used to speak about Chinnu Achebe, about the Africans. He said, they are all they are all AIDS, something like that, he said. So this kind of stereotypes, which was in European literature, even most of the academics, whether it is science or sociology, they are from the elite community. They are the Savarna ideology perpetrators. So even if they teach Dalit ideology, even if they teach annihilation of caste, they wouldn't do the purpose for which we have introduced the text. That's why I wrote the article. It's not enough that you introduce alternative discourses, counterculture discourses in the syllabus, but the teaching methodology, the pedagogy is also, as you know, teaching to transgress has been our motive. Teaching to liberate, which unfortunately for us, because we are only teaching at postgraduate, we could do that. So, to your question, whether it is necessary to introduce more and more alternative countercultural discourses in the higher education, yes, agreed. But the next point is that the way it should be taught is also equally important. And unfortunately, the current scenario is not conducive to bringing in marginalized discourses. But I'm sure students are more and more looking forward to this kind of materials, because now they can take 40% of optional courses, MOOC courses. They can freely opt for any courses. That way, students will learn whatever they want to know. But the faculty, I'm sure, many of the faculty are, status quoist. They want to be popular. They don't want to create problems in the classroom, like creating positions in the classroom. Very few professors, very few academics, I believe, from my experience, take clear positions in whatever, whether it's democracy or secularism or whatever is multiculturalism. They don't take position. They are here and here, so and so, so and so. That is very devastating. With my little exposure to European universities, I would say they are better than us. Teacher has absolute freedom to share his thoughts. Students can agree or disagree. But unfortunately, we are now going through a process in which teachers will be dumb voices in the classroom.
Okay. And after your retirement, you are also deeply engaging with Dalit movements and Dalit social and spiritual kind of pursuits with Ambedkarite Buddhism in particular. So what is the importance of Ambedkarism and his mode of modern Buddhism in India and Kerala today?
See, as I told you, I was born in a Marxist family. So till 1980, 1990, I was just a left thinker, a Marxist-Leninist thinker. But during 1996, I started reading Ambedkar. I started keeping aware of what is happening around society. And in 1997, I had an opportunity to interact with African Americans, Native Americans, and Australian Aboriginals. So I was thinking, broadening my understanding about what is caste. So I started thinking about myself. Am I a communist Dalit or a Dalit communist? So I started prioritizing Dalit identity. At that time, I believe no university professor was brave to openly say that I am a Dalit. Judge me on my merit. But I did that. So I started learning Ambedkar, reading Ambedkar, teaching Ambedkarist, connecting with my fellows in different parts of the country, especially Maharashtra, UP, and Tamil Nadu. Then I was only an Ambedkarite, but still a Marxist. But then beyond Ambedkarism, I have not been thinking about it. I have heard about Buddhism, but Buddhism, to my understanding at that point of time, was, you have to shave your head, you have to be clad in a separate robe, a kind of ascetic, kind of renunciatory kind of thing. I was not happy with that, because that is another kind of Hinduism. But to tell you the truth, ever since I was 12-year-old, I have not been a Hindu. I have never gone and prayed in any of the temples, though my family traditional occupation was, Theyyam and things like that, because my father was a communist. We didn't observe any rituals, even for my marriage, for death. We didn't have horoscope, nothing like that. So that is because of my Marxist, radical, secular, rational kind of thing. But I didn't want to embrace Buddhism of that sort of thing. But then I read Ambedkar's more and more. Buddha and his Dhamma. Then I realized there is a scope for liberation. How the Buddhist principles can be used for social change. It is at that time I listened to one of the talks by our Gaudamji in the YouTube about INEB, International Network of Engaged Buddhism. That was a revelation for me. I was just looking for such a kind of Buddhism where you can live an average social human being, but your Ambedkarist ideology can be put into practice, combining with the Buddhist thought, Buddhist ethics especially. So I immediately contacted them. So I said, I am interested in joining. They welcomed me. So I've been incorporated into this. I am now a member. I am a Dhamma Mitra. That is the first kind of novice preparation. We were taught in Buddha principles. I attended camps. We had a retreat. You were also there, no? We had a Bordren, you come, no? So we had a 10 days camp. And now we are in the process. We have online meditation every day. It's not much, but just as a communist social worker, but communism will never liberate us, we know. So Ambedkar, engaged Buddhism is nothing but Ambedkarist Buddhism. Ambedkar wanted to supply a Bible to the Dalits for their liberation. That's why he used Buddhist principles. So now I am a humble follower of Ambedkarist Buddhism. We had our own community. We had you were also with us. We went to Sri Lanka, and now we are having the international convention in Chennai. So I think I should have, I'm late in a way. I should have realized, I should have understood and embraced this kind of position very early. But the leftist communist background denied all possibility of rethinking, which happened to our generation of people. But I'm happy that at least in the latest stage of my life, I could realize my identity and my goal in the social service. Now we are members and following as Ambedkarist Buddhist. That's how we are now.
Okay, thank you, Professor M. Dasan, for these illuminating words. We will continue our conversations, but for the time being, we will conclude today. And thank you very much for.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure talking to you.
Same to you.